Now, did you know that Tim Sugar Walz has been running around the country doing his whole Trump and Elon bashing, talking about how terrible they are and Trump's a dictator and tariffs are going to mess us up and Elon is a cheesehead and all of this craziness. And remember when President Trump was starting to go through the government and was letting go of the non-essential workers and people who didn't want to come into the office and those who just did not agree with his agenda, he was going to let them go and give them a 9-month severance pay. And Tim Walz said it was terrible. How dare he force people back into work? One thing he failed to let people know of what's going on in his own home state. So in this video, I'm going to bring you up to speed with exactly what type of backlash and firestorm Tim Walz has going on in his own backyard. Then Tim Walz did an interview with Jake Tapper where the man completely lost his marbles. And I'm going to show you that meltdown when he was called out to the carpet by Jake Tapper. Surprisingly, Jake Tapper did his job and called him out. And Tim Walz fell flat and looked like a deer in headlights. So let's get into what's going on in Minnesota while Tim Walz is running around talking down about President Trump and Elon like Democrats do. Look at the hypocrisy of what's going on in his backyard. And remember, this is a man that has no investments, no stocks, has never owned a business in his life. He has no type of fiscal responsibility record. He has no economic intelligence. Remember, this is the man that lied about being in actual combat. This is the man that lied about how his children were conceived and born. He never received IVF. So let me get off into that. Let me get into this video. Check this out. This is what's going on with Tim Sugar Walz, Tampon Tim, in his home state.
Minnesota are rallying against a new back to office order. Hundreds of state employees protested outside Governor Tim Walz's mansion on Saturday. Take a look. Comes after Governor Walz announced an order requiring them to work in the office 50% of the time. The governor told reporters he believes it's going to enhance collaboration and mentorship in addition to helping downtown areas in the Twin Cities thrive with workers actually back in the office. However, workers say they're worried about being productive in the office as many are also scrambling to find childcare and transportation.
So our members showed up here, thousands of them, because they're mad. We've been doing our work from home for the last 5 years during the pandemic, and we're more productive at home. We don't understand why this is happening.
You see what happens when you give left-wing extremist progressive libtards that type of freedom. Now, all of these people were hired under the pretense, especially those that were there for the pandemic. You drove to work every day. A once-in-a-lifetime pandemic hits, and all of a sudden you feel it should be the norm. And then you got the inmates telling the warden that they feel they work better at home. And then you said people have to start paying for child care. So what that means is who's watching your child when you're supposed to be working during the daytime? Or your children running around and playing when you're supposed to be focused on work? And then transportation, if you've been working from home for all of these years, you haven't had to pay child care. You didn't save up a little bit of money to go get yourself a vehicle. How do you get around to get food? How do you get any place else you have to go? These are some of the weakest excuses you could think of, but this is what happens when you allow progressivism to lead. They have ideological visions in this utopia in their mind that would sound great in their head, but when applied, they're horrible. Look at the open border. I guarantee you that was some left-wing extremist, libtard, Ivy League, multi-million-dollar graduate that felt like they're giving back. But say, let's just open the borders. No, a lot of people won't come, and the people that are coming do this, and they'll just pick our corn and our cottons and serve our foods. That's how Democrats view this. They trying to create it. They feel like they're being merciful, creating a slave class. And did you hear in the clip where they talked about destroying downtown? Imagine all of those businesses and stores that thrived for years, for decades downtown because of all the foot traffic. Now you send all those people home. You didn't think about the local eateries and department stores, did you, Timmy boy? Nope, because liberals, progressive, and left-wing libtards don't think about the aftermath. They just think about the utopic vision in their mind, in their psycho-filled mind. So now that he realized the government is suffering, the local economy is suffering, this isn't the best idea. And now those that are supposed to work for you or work for the government are telling you what to do. Matter of fact, they're so bold, they've taken it to the man's front, to the steps of his house, of the governor's mansion. Now, let's listen to what Timmy Boy has to say about what's going on.
It's the trend that's been out there. The time seems right now where we're at. I think making the case to come back, to get some of that energy while remaining flexible.
Unions say thousands of state employees were shocked to get notice they need to return to the office.
5 years since the pandemic, the governor is now calling workers back to the office starting June 1st.
5 years. Now, in a minute, I'm going to show you the interview with Jake Tapper where he fell flat. But listen to what impact it's had on the downtown economy in St. Paul.
It applies to 50% of their working hours. New at 6, Jason Randla spoke to excited city leaders and business owners in St. Paul.
You're complaining about 50%.
Some people are pretty upset about the change.
Well, Nathan Ferry has worked in person ever since COVID as a chemist for the state of Minnesota. He says the new in-office requirement will certainly be an adjustment for remote workers.
This change is pretty significant for a lot of people who've adapted their lives to working remotely. And it seems like it caught a lot of people off guard.
The news comes after several business closures in downtown St. Paul, including the downtown Lunds and Byerly's, where huge markdowns and empty shelves marked their very last day being open.
I really appreciate the governor stepping forward to make the announcement that he made this week.
St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter says he's been discussing an in-person requirement with Governor Tim Walz for several months now.
I've shared with him how critical it is for us to have employees downtown, just how critical that is to our vitality as a community, how critical that is to the future of our downtown.
All the business.
If you're enjoying this video, do me a solid, hit that like button. I'll never ask you for a cash app or a super chat. You hitting that like button really helps. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. On the Real Politics Podcast, that's what we do. We keep it real about politics. So once you subscribe, hit the notification bell and select all. That way, you'll be notified when I upload new videos. So as you see, the fact that they had all of those people at home, working from home, the input as far as from the people fell off. They're not getting the job done the right way. The local businesses are failing and shutting down. And now you got the employees pushing back. The inmates have taken over the asylum. And now you got 36,000 or however many thousand people pissed off and outside your front door, Tampon Tim. This is what happens when you lead with socialism. Remember, this is the same person, the same exact person who told us this. He told us who he was. Remember this?
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But we can get out there, reach.
You hear that BS? Now here's what Tampon Tim went on Jake Tapper. And for, one of the rare times that Jake actually does his job as a journalist and really, calls Tim out on the things that's been going on with Joe Biden and with himself. And as can be expected, like a deer in his headlights, this man just fell apart. Can you imagine if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were the president and the VP? Right now, we'd have 50 million. I mean, I believe it. We would have 50 million people in this country. They would have let's freaking overloaded the Supreme Court. And it would be transgender day every day. They would let Social Security and Medicare just go bankrupt. And they would shut down and cripple every small business that wasn't strong enough to hold on until they crushed them all, which is what we don't want, which is what those tens of millions of illegal immigrants were doing, which is what does help lead to inflation. Constantly printing money to take care of them. That's what leads to inflation. So 4 years of that crap. And then we got 2 months of Trump and they're talking about, recession. Recessions don't happen in 2 months. But listen to Tim Walz as he gets called out by Jake Tapper.
I mean, the issues you identified there were immigration, right. DEI, and woke. You think Democrats' problem was that you just didn't do a good enough job explaining the policies and not that voters simply didn't just reject what you were selling, particularly on immigration, I wonder?
Look at this face.
On immigration, what we were asking for is a bipartisan policy that strengthens immigration control, that recognizes that we need a workforce here, that they should be allowed here legally, and that when they get here, they're part of the American fabric. And that is the bipartisan bill we had. Donald Trump snatching up college grad students and sending them back or sending folks to El Salvador illegally. That's not the policy. But for us to them to say, we don't care that violent criminals come in, we most certainly do. What we were asking for is the resources to make sure they don't get here. And the same thing with the other policies. It's not a woke policy to provide food for children to get breakfast and lunch, and we get better outcomes from that.
You see what they do? You see how he tried to mix in all this compassionate crap while not answering the question at all whatsoever? They asked him about whether people agree with their immigration policy. Then he goes into President Trump taking out students who are doing protests for supporting a freaking terrorist organization. And you can hear him with no matter how many words he's putting in. What he wants is amnesty for everybody. Come on in and immediately become a citizen. Now, remember, this is a man whose own city in his state is failing. This is a man that has no investments, no stocks, no businesses, no anything. This is the man that went and visited China 13 times to learn and fell in love with their socialist way of being. This man is a liar. Everything this man has said has been false, has been a lie, and has been proven. Just like now he's lying as far about, oh, we don't want criminals here. Yes, they do. They love that type of unrest. Democrats love chaos. They believe in nuvo sordo seclorum. How's it go? Is that something like that? Order out of chaos. Nuvo sordo seclorum. It's on the dollar. I believe I got it right though. Nuvo sordo seclorum. Order out of chaos. But this is what they believe. That's why you see all these protests and these violent things. They want destruction where it breaks and weakens the people down so much that they demand the government step in to help. So the government create the problem, then have the people demand the same government to come in and fix the problem. So they almost try to play like God, so to speak, which is BS in itself.
He defined things on their terms that weren't true. And what I'm saying is, are we going to turn away from being a country of legal immigration? Are we going to turn away from a country that thinks diversity and making sure that we don't have gaps in income between blacks and whites?
They go to
those
race.
are policies that have strengthened America. And I think what we allowed ourselves to do is we got timid. And then when we got power, we didn't pass things that improved people's lives. This whole idea, I think the Democratic Party gets theoretical, talk about food insecurity. People are hungry, get them food. People don't have a house. Make sure they have a living wage. That's the point that I'm saying is, Fox News will glorify, oh, he's for DEI. Not your definition of DEI. My definition is rule of law that's fair, that everybody gets an opportunity. And that's the point I think we have to make. Now, look.
AKA socialism.
I'll be first tell you, Jake, I'm out here doing what I can do. I don't know if I'm the best spokesperson to do it after just losing an election. Yeah, but what I know is the public, and you saw it across the country this weekend, they're rising up and asking their leadership to do something.
So we heard your former running mate, Kamala Harris, say she's not here to say, I told you so, although obviously that's what she was saying about all the Trump chaos.
Now, listen in as Jake asked him, why do you think your party was just resoundingly rejected last November? Check out what he says on this one.
Well, what do you make of the criticism that one of the reasons why your party was so resoundingly rejected last November is because Democrats were gaslighting the country, saying that inflation was not a big deal, heralding Bidenomics. Not only Biden, but Kamala Harris was heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years of the job, while Americans, poll after poll, for year after year, were saying he's too old to do the job. Your party stood against all of those things.
Look, Joe Biden coming in and during COVID and being a governor through COVID did a hell of a job. But I think one of the things that we didn't do is we assumed that we said, and it was true, that we were going to have a soft landing and our economy was better than the rest of the world. Better for who? Better for the working class who was saying groceries were too expensive, as they are now and going up. They got to see us talk about things. Again, I go back to this. Don't talk about food insecurity or housing type of issues. Talk about people being hungry and wondering where they're going to live, or about their children's future, about real security. And so I think your question is spot on. I think we got intellectualized on this. I think the fact of the matter is Joe Biden did soft land the economy. He did usher us through COVID.
You hear that type of BS, soft land the economy, while he drove us into a recession, which the Democrats said wasn't a recession. They redefined what a recession is under Joe Biden, just so it wouldn't seem like it was a recession, just like they lied about the jobs report and fudged it by 1 million jobs, and didn't even know that most of those jobs they created were government jobs, and then the rest of them were part-time jobs, but still they promoted it like it was great jobs report. And Tim Walz was right there on the front line co-signing this crap, and now he's backpedaling, acting like, oh, but I'll be like Scooby-Doo. Oh, what Raggy is. Oh.
None of us are saying we should be soft on the border, but we allow a vacuum, and Donald Trump fills it, the 800-pound gorilla, and their narrative starts to stick, and we look weak. We look weak like we don't care. We look like look, Jake, I'm not going to say, we need to do is we need to just arrest people and ship them to El Salvador. No, we need to invest the money on border. We need to make sure that we have the judges necessary to adjudicate things faster. We need to make sure if you're going to be in this country here legally, and when you are, you're going to be uplifted, celebrated, and part of this great American tapestry. We didn't do that, and then it fills them. They'll find the example that is horrific, where you have someone who's not here legally and they commit a crime. That
Yeah.
is horrific,
Don't you-
but we don't do a good job of telling that.
Don't you think your party needs to acknowledge that President Biden was not up for the job of running for re-election and that this was a major mistake by the
He made that
Democrat-
decision.
I know.
Look at how fast he snapped it. Look at his face. Look at his face. Yeah, look at that face. That right there is the face of somebody who realizes they were full of crap and they have been busted and exposed. Look at that face. And what about Jake Tapper saying your party, as if he's not a Democrat shill? He just let Tim Walz sit there and spew all that BS. Tim Walz just literally sat there and told us, I'm not going to be deporting people to El Salvador. I believe that we should open the borders up, bring people in and uplift them. Put them above our own citizens and champion people who have no loyalty to this country, no connection to this country, no investment in this country. We should bring them in and uplift them and celebrate them. While the American citizen gets stomped on and pushed down. You know what I mean? While they form a whole nother style of racism on that side from the Democrat side. If I was a white person, especially a white man, there is no way I could be a member of the Democrat Party. No way. And as a black person, I don't understand how any black person could be a member of it, but that's a given. But at one point you had liberals, but the way they're just anti, and as a Christian, if you're a believer in God, there is no way you could be a part of that party. That is the party of so much, just nothing but demonic acts, period. From the smortions or unaliving of the babies to all types of stuff, to the transgender thing. It's insane. But look at his face now that he's been brought out. Let's watch this.
No, but you all went along with
he
the
made that
idea that he
decision.
was up for it and he wasn't. And everybody saw it and the country rejected it.
Yeah, well, look, history will tell us to go back on that. That very well could be the case, Jake. What I'm concerned about is learning from those lessons. I would hope we would never do it again, make a mistake, make sure we go through and get someone. But I don't know where it helps us going forward. I certainly am deeply concerned that Donald Trump is going to lead us down a horrific look. Thank God it's tariffs that he said. Donald Trump listens to no one. Remember, Donald Trump has statements of.
They asked this man about why the Democrat Party did not be honest about Joe Biden, and look at what he did. The TDS kicked in and he's back to Trump again. Literally said that he hopes it never happens again and really don't understand why they're talking about it all. They just swept under the rug. And if you listen to every Democrat politician that's been asked this question with all these books coming out, even on The View, look at how dismissive they are. But like, oh, why are we even talking about this? Who cares? I can't believe Joy Behar said they wrote about this. They put this in a book. Why are we talking about this? I can't believe it. It's like, what's the big deal? So what, we lied about our president being alive and being competent, who was really running the country, and the vice president and him didn't get along, and we did a coup and kicked him out and we installed somebody. Who cares about that? Like, what's the big deal? Hey, listen, we messed up. No harm, no foul. We'll do better next time. That's literally how they're treating it. This is insanity. And I just wanted to bring you this to show you that please share with, and I know you already are. If you're watching this, you're sharing with everyone you know. All we got to do is get them to just open their eyes and their ears and just dig a little bit. All they have to do is ask their Democrat leadership or Democrat friends a question, just a follow question. Whatever they say they stand on. You know what? I can't stand Trump and Elon. Why? Well, because of this. And how's that impacting you? Or what is it that they're doing that's impacting this situation? And hear them out. Many times you're going to find out it is so misguided. And then you just ask, hey, let me ask you this, because I want to respect your beliefs, but can I show you something just to kind of help you better understand what's going on? I don't know. It might or might not, but can I show you something? And then once they say, well, yeah, just show them the information. Arguing with these people doesn't help. They start foaming at the mouth. They start cursing. They start calling you names. But we got to do what we can to help them open their eyes. The good news is that Black support for Trump has increased 17 points in a new poll that just came out this weekend. Support amongst 18 and 29-year-olds has increased. Support from Democrats and independents increased 6% for President Trump. His overall approval rating has improved by 4 points. He's at 53%, while the Democrats are still at the bottom. But yet they want to tell him what he's doing is wrong, and they want to tell us how upset we should be. Ain't that funny? The Democrats tell us how upset we should be with who we voted for. They love to tell MAGA and people on this side, oh, we should be upset. And it's like, you don't know anything about over here. The TDS won't even allow them to listen to anything related to Trump or MAGA or conservatives that's positive. They'll get the gyrating and foaming, and it literally, I don't know if you've ever been through it, but really test it out. Trump derangement syndrome is real. It's real. But hey, listen, man, I appreciate you. If you watched the video this far, I just wanted to bring you this with Tampon Tim, Tim Sugar Walz, and just let you see exactly what type of buffoonery and BS he's spewing across the internet. And if you haven't already liked the video, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, I want you to be safe, and I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.